All right, welcome to this explainer. Today we're popping the hood on what I think is one of the most fascinating machines in modern retail, the completely data-driven engine behind fashion e-commerce. You know, if you've ever ordered a pair of shoes online, maybe at 2 a.m. on a random Tuesday, and then just marveled when they showed up at your doorstep a day or two later, well, you've actually just experienced the very tip of a massive mathematical iceberg. Today, we're going to explore the incredibly huge, dual challenge that platforms like India's fashion giant Myntra are facing literally every single day. On one side of the coin, they have to accurately stock the exact right products in very limited warehouse space. And then, on the flip side, they have to seamlessly market and sell those very specific products to the right people. It is a high-stakes balancing act of hardcore supply chain optimization and consumer psychology. Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. We've got 1, the fashion e-commerce challenge, 2, solving the inventory puzzle, 3, balancing fulfillment and space, 4, the power of personalization, and finally, 5, segmenting the modern shopper. So, starting off with section 1, the fashion e-commerce challenge. Figuring out exactly what to stock when fashion trends can literally change overnight is an incredibly difficult hurdle for these platforms. Which brings us right into section 2, solving the inventory puzzle. So, how exactly do we solve this crazy back-end problem of stocking local warehouses? To speed up deliveries and, keep us customers happy, platforms divide the country into clusters, and each one is served by a local warehouse called a Forward Deployment Center, or FDC. But physical space in these centers is strictly limited. There's only so much room. So how does the algorithm decide what makes the cut? Well, to figure this out, Myntra's data scientists actually turned to a classic mathematical framework known as the newsboy problem. To strip away all the complex jargon for a second, just imagine a newsboy standing on a street corner back in the 1920s. He has to buy papers in the morning to sell throughout the day, right? If he buys too few, he sells out early and misses out on potential profit. That's your understocking risk. But if he buys way too many, he's left holding worthless, outdated papers at the end of the day, and that's the risk of overstocking. Myntra treats placing inventory in their local warehouses exactly like this newsboy. They use this mathematical model to find the absolute perfect quantity of a product to hold, perfectly balancing those two risks. Let's anchor this abstract theory to reality for a second. Take a look at this specific Puma shoe. In the retail world, this is a stock-keeping unit, or a SKU, and this is the exact level at which the algorithm operates. The data model isn't just looking at something broad like shoes, no. It's evaluating the historical weekly sales data and demand distribution for this highly specific black and white Puma sneaker for every single local warehouse cluster. It calculates the exact quantity of this specific SKU to ship to your local facility. It's crazy precise. Moving right along to section 3, balancing fulfillment and space. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that it introduces this fascinating tension between two entirely different business goals. Over on the left, we've got the fulfillment index, or FI. This measures how often a customer's order is successfully delivered right from their local warehouse. Obviously, we desperately want this number to be as close to 100% as possible, right? Because that means lightning-fast delivery and happy customers. But look on the right. We have the utilization index, or UI. This measures warehouse congestion. If you just shove every possible product into the local warehouse to keep your FI high, well, your UI skyrockets. The warehouse gets totally congested, storage costs absolutely explode, and you end up paying a premium to evict unsold items later. So the ultimate goal of the algorithm is to maximize the fulfillment index while strictly minimizing the utilization index. And guys, the results of applying this newsboy model are just staggering. Let's look at the data comparing Myntra's older, regression-based predictive model against their new newsboy-inspired algorithm. Look closely at region FTC2 right here. The old model successfully fulfilled 47% of local orders, but it had a terribly congested utilization index of 1.98. The new algorithm completely bumped fulfillment up to 67%, while simultaneously slashing congestion down to a highly efficient 0.97. And look right below it at FDC11. It's the exact same story. A massive leap to 69% fulfillment while literally cutting warehouse space usage in half. By directly optimizing for these specific metrics, the new algorithm absolutely blew the older predictive models out of the water. Okay, so the back-end math is beautiful and the local warehouses are perfectly stocked. But that raises our next big question, doesn't it? How do you get these perfectly optimized products out of the warehouse and into the digital carts of actual shoppers? Which brings us to section 4, the power of personalization. So to figure out exactly who is on the other side of the screen, we're pulling from an incredibly detailed study of 150 Myntra customers. Looking at this demographic breakdown, the absolute standout data point here is the massive dominance of the 18 to 25 age group. They make up 42% of the user base. And when you combine that with the 26 to 35 demographic, you are looking at a customer base that is overwhelmingly Gen Z and young millennials. This is an audience that has literally grown up online. They expect a highly digital, fast-paced, and seamless retail experience. Furthermore, if we look at their income distribution, a full 40% of these users have a monthly income below 25,000 rupees, and another 26.7% sit in the bracket just above that. This paints a very, very clear picture for a marketing team. You are dealing with a young, highly digital, but largely budget-conscious audience. This directly informs why certain strategies, specifically targeted personalization and really well-timed discounts, are absolutely crucial for capturing this specific user base. You can't just throw generic luxury ads at this demographic and hope they stick. It just won't work. And finally, Section 5, segmenting the modern shopper. To truly personalize marketing, data analysts rely on something called K-means clustering. It's basically an AI tool that groups diverse shoppers into highly actionable buckets. Let's de-jargon this data real quick. The AI identified 3 exact types of shoppers. First, you have the moderate shoppers. They shop at an average frequency, spend a medium amount, and have a pretty moderate response to recommendations. Second, the high spenders. Now these are the gold mine. They shop frequently, they spend a lot, and they are heavily influenced by personalized marketing. If you show them the right shoe, they're going to buy it for sure. And third, the price-sensitive shoppers. They shop the least, spend the least, and honestly, they don't care much about personalized recommendations unless there is a hefty discount attached. By knowing exactly which bucket a user falls into, Myntra can perfectly tailor exactly what kind of emails and app notifications they receive. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer depth of the data we're looking at. Researchers ran a chi-square test, which is just a statistical way to see if 2 variables are related, and they confirmed a highly significant relationship between age and shopping frequency. Notice how the proportion of users who shop weekly or monthly shifts noticeably depending on the age group? The data proves that a user's age heavily influences how often they actually open the app to make a purchase, which helps the team refine those marketing algorithms even further. But, the data also threw a pretty big curveball. Measuring brand loyalty against purchase frequency reveals a highly surprising fact. A customer's brand loyalty is actually completely independent of how often they make a purchase. I mean, you'd probably assume that your most loyal customers are the ones buying every single week, right? But the data says otherwise. A customer might be incredibly loyal to Myntra, but only shop there rarely, perhaps waiting for major seasonal sales or highly specific personalized discounts. Loyalty simply does not equal high frequency, and that totally changes how you have to market to them. So ultimately, the big question, does all this intense tracking and segmenting actually work? Well, yes. Yes, it does. A massive 49% of surveyed customers reported being fully satisfied with Myntra's personalized marketing strategies. When you match the exact right product to the right person based on their exact spending habits and age profile, almost half your entire user base is actively happy with the advertisements you serve them. That is a massive, massive win for user retention. So, the crucial point here is how these 2 distinct elements interact to create an incredibly efficient business machine. Step 1, you optimize your physical stock locally using the newsboy model, ensuring the right items are physically near the customer. Step 2, you use K-means clustering to segment your millions of users into specific behavioral buckets. And step 3, you deploy targeted marketing to those segments, essentially pointing them directly to the inventory you've already mathematically placed in their local warehouse. It's a beautifully closed-loop system of total efficiency. We've seen the complex math behind the supply chain and the deep psychology behind the marketing, and it really leaves us with something fascinating to think about. If a machine learning algorithm can perfectly predict the exact style of shoe you want, push a beautifully personalized ad to your phone at the exact right moment, and have already stored that exact shoe in a warehouse just 3 miles from your house based on mathematical probability, well, how much of your next online purchase is truly your own choice? Just a little something to ponder the next time you hit add to cart. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I really hope you learned something fascinating today.